Hey everybody, Dean Benard here with the latest episode of Take 5, and today I want to talk about getting it right with the complainant. And what do I mean by that? Well, it's my belief that every investigation starts with understanding what you're investigating. And so often, complainants will provide information, particularly in a workplace investigation, but this applies to regulatory investigations as well. Complainants will sometimes be, frankly, all over the map. And this isn't, I'm not criticizing them. I'm not suggesting that there's a problem with that. Oftentimes a complainant, they don't understand how an investigation is going to unfold. And what we get is the 10-page, single-spaced letter. Sometimes it's all one paragraph, and I'm not trying to be critical of them, but let's face it, complainants are emotional. Complainants are upset. They're angry about something. They want something dealt with. In the process of doing so, they get their thoughts down on paper and they say, "This is my complaint." And we look at that complaint sometimes and we go, "Oh my gosh, there's so much in here. What exactly is the complaint?" We have to dig through that period of that pile of information to try and figure out, well, what exactly are they complaining about? And of course, we couldn't just take that and give it to a person who's responding and say, answer to this, because they're going to have the same struggle that we are. So as investigators, project number one on investigations, let's understand what the complaint is. Let's understand what needs to be investigated, what needs to be responded to. So we meet with the complainant and we work through that with them. Sometimes it's not so hard. Sometimes it's incredibly hard. What we need to do is try and make sure that our allegations or concerns or incidents or issues or whatever language you want to use to describe them, that they're clear, they're digestible, they're in chunks, that we understand what they are. It doesn't always have to be down to a particular date. I know sometimes, people will say, well, this is just the behavior I've dealt with for a year. I can't give you certain dates or certain times. I didn't write this stuff down. That's okay. That's not the end of the world. An allegation can be something like between this date and this date, the respondent is alleged to regularly engage in the following behaviors. Bing, bing, bing. What are those behaviors? Bullying behavior. What is it? A lot of it is about getting to the specifics. It's not good enough to just say, I've been harassed, I've been bullied. Okay, well, that's a good start. You've put the label harassment and bullying on this. Let's talk and work with the complainant to understand, well, what do they think bullying and harassment is? Because bullying and harassment is different things to different people. And sometimes it's just conflict. Well, I have a conflict. They make my job harder because they don't agree with me in board meetings, or they make my job harder because they undermine me to the boss. Well, okay, let's get into that and understand exactly how is that happening. And you've heard me talk about getting into the details. Well, this is another place where we need to get into the details. We need to understand with a complainant, what exactly is the behavior? What are the actions? We'll put labels on it later, right? You can label it later, but let's talk about what's the behavior. Now some of that will be buried in that big, long written letter of complaint. Sometimes it won't. I've had cases where the letter is actually the opposite, very short. I've been harassed for 1 year by this person and I want it dealt with. Well, we got nothing, right? All we have is a person who's upset, who believes they've been harassed. So we have to work with them. So that's what I'm getting at with this episode of Take 5, is like trying to emphasize the importance of working with the complainant, understanding clearly what their issues are, and then making sure that we are able to relate those issues in a way that's fair and understandable to the respondent so they can respond to them. And if we don't do that work, with the complainant to clearly understand what the allegations are and what the issues are, if we don't do that work, then our investigation isn't going to have any clear direction. We won't know who we need to speak to, what documentary information we need to obtain. Everything hinges on understanding that complaint. So it's a real important piece of investigations that I think is really grossly underestimated or not thought of to a great enough extent. So really make sure you do that. Go through things with the complainant. Sometimes those complainant interviews are going to be a little bit longer because we're really trying to understand, what are they complaining about? And once we know that, then we can start putting our investigation plan together and we know what we need to do. We'll put our blueprint forward and we'll get it done. And, all the other pieces of the investigation process fall into place with that foundation of understanding what we're dealing with. So that's my thoughts on working with the complainant, understanding the allegations. I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you next time on Take 5.